So look, I'm not much for the podium, so I'm going to bounce around a little bit to start with and chat with you guys. Figure out who we've got in the room, what we're actually working on day to day, and what the major points that you're dealing with in display advertising. We're a display advertising company. This is me. It's a rather smug shot, but it's the one that my wife liked best, so I went with it. Been in the digital space for a good long time, actually with quite a few sort of different environments, always somehow serving folks in the automotive space. So it's been a lot of fun in that regard as well. But what I need to understand is in the room, so working, running, operating, so operations dealer level. Anyone? I see some white around, so okay. And marketing dealer level? Perfect. Running much in the way of display today? Okay. And what sort of problems, what sort of frustrations are you bumping into? Okay. So just to repeat, understanding the metrics behind it to know whether it's really working or not. Okay, important piece for sure. A couple things in display today bugging you?
What's the right message?
What's the right message?
Yeah.
Okay. So relative to branding message or inventory message or service message, that kind of stuff?
Do you put a payment in?
Beg your pardon?
Do you put a payment in with a car, like do you go that way?
Right.
Or do you just stick OEM and go with their campaign?
Okay.
Kind of build on that.
Right. So when we get to, we're going to talk about building the ad agenda. I'll just punt it all out pretty quick so you can review as we're just talking to start with. But those are the pieces of the puzzle that we're going to be talking about today. If your eyes are squinty, basically it's about the full gamut. So this is effectively a session that's a more intermediate style session. But we're going to be jumping into a few things that are going to cover things that are a little more intricate. But for the most part, it's going to be at that kind of mid-range level. Okay, so if there's some more detailed questions, some really tight stuff that you want to get into, feel free to ask me afterwards. I'm more than happy to stick around and discuss a little bit further. Okay. First sort of simple thing, where does display fit into the whole space, and whether you're not doing it or you are doing it, whether you should be or shouldn't be, that sort of thing. There's really been so many changes over the last sort of 5-10 years, and I'm likely preaching to the choir in a lot of cases, where we have been really making a significant shift into our digital world. And there's the silly stuff like this that we hear about all the time. Okay, everybody's online. It's all going crazy. We're all spending more time there. That's the reality. People are spending significantly more money. Auto traders saying all this sort of good stuff about how people are spending more time looking online before buying the car, making the decisions of what they're going to be spending their dollars on prior to even getting to the store. Okay, and that's, the average. I've been hearing different numbers today, but typically consumers like ourselves, when we're buying the car, we're only going to go to 1, maybe 2 stores. I mean, that 1.7 store seems to be the number that I'm hearing about mostly. Is that fairly consistent with what you guys are hearing? 1.2 for your brand? Okay, heard 1.4. Really, the reality is they're going to know before they get to the door who they're going to be working with. So we've got to make sure we're communicating with them in as many different ways as we can. And it's funny, at the same time, there's this spending thing going on. Okay, so clearly there's a significant amount of spending. I'm just going to walk through my screen on a regular basis because I feel like it. So there's this increased level of spending happening all the time where we're now measuring one against the other. So I spent some time in radio. I spent some time running digital for a newspaper company. And what we are consistently hearing is, digital surpassed radio. Digital surpassed print. Now digital has surpassed television. But it's funny because digital is actually all of those things combined in different ways. Right? When you're running a campaign in Google, it's kind of like what you used to do in the Yellow Pages. When you're running ads on YouTube, it's kind of like running ads on TV. When you're running display ads, it's kind of like billboard and running ads in the paper. We did all of these things before, and now we're saying it's all one thing, and it's crushing everybody. But there's all of these different pieces of it to make an important marketing mix that's going to deliver the most value for your brand. And it's not any one piece that's going to be the silver bullet that's going to really make it all happen, unfortunately. But we talk about this marketing mix, and I'm, of course, from a display company, so our pyramid's at the top. It's just the way it goes, or our triangle at the top of that pyramid, but it's that mix that's going to deliver the most value. So you guys that are doing display today, you're probably seeing some indicators in your metrics, or maybe you're not, but some of those pieces of that puzzle are particularly important because there's attribution. And we'll talk about some of that as we go through today, about attribution and starting to be able to figure out what is attributing to the sale from your display activities. And it's a really hard thing to do. Typically, attribution is done by a Google with a Coke, that kind of thing, a Yahoo with a Nike. But there's ways to work with attribution with folks that can measure things all the way through and actually show you where your ads are showing up and translate that into the conversions that are happening off your lot. So, first piece of the puzzle, we're search's friend. Display is definitely search's friend. A lot of the time, people are out in the marketplace trying to figure out what it is that they're doing. And for your SEO and your SEM, you're starting to get people to help people to figure out what it is that they're doing in the marketplace, what it is that they're looking for. So you're creating a behavior. So when you're running a campaign, and I often think back to a campaign that I ran for a guy a long time ago in a market just north of Vancouver. I'm from Vancouver, Canada. And just north of Vancouver, there's a market called Squamish. And I worked for a little radio station called Mountain FM. Mostly I just wanted to ski a lot, and that worked out really well. So when I was at Mountain FM, I'm working with this guy, and he's running a push-puller-drag campaign. All over the radio, he's running push-puller-drag. All over the place, we ran display ads for him, push-puller-drag. And he didn't buy push-puller-drag keywords. He wasn't running the search part of the campaign where we're actually telling people what to look for. So he's letting people know, but he's not showing them how to get there very quickly or helping them to get there very quickly. So part of it is, okay, if I'm running display campaigns, what is the messaging that I'm using? So when you're deciding whether it's an OEM messaging or to carry out some other form of messaging, it's a matter of creating that campaign and blending the pieces together. So you're running that display piece. You got to be making sure that you're complementing that with what you're doing in search, and vice versa. You'll start to see increases along the way. We'll get into the lift of what you can do. So you're getting more. By working both pieces together, you're getting more value one from the other. We'll talk about lift, and it works both ways. So there's a number of studies out there. If you get into eMarketer, it's a place that I like to spend a bit of time. They do a lot of good research, eMarketer.com. And there you see a lot of studies, and actually recently Harvard Business Review did another study looking at display and seeing what that cross-contamination, we'll call it, because it's more fun than cross-selling or whatever. So the cross-contamination of display and search is what you're getting into when you're seeing people that are running both pieces of the puzzle and seeing lift on both sides. So you're running display and you see search increase. Okay, that gets into that attribution piece. What's actually happening? So what are you actually doing? Well, you're helping people to understand what to search for, what to build on, and how to go from there. Okay, so what kind of lift? What's really going to be that increase? What's that increase going to look like? Okay, when you're running the pieces, frankly, you're already spending on one. Why wouldn't you try to lift one with the other by spending within the display space? And typically, we don't even get into the mindset when we're chatting with customers of saying, hey, okay, you're running your display or your search campaigns, rather, stop running that search stuff and run over here with display. We don't really get into that mindset. There's money available because, frankly, digital media costs less than traditional media. That's just the way it is. That's what's crushing my poor little former company up north, right? So Post Media, they're trying to figure out how to make it work with less dollars coming in for digital means. But what that means is you've got available resources to be able to invest on both sides and in multiple different areas within digital to raise the boat, to raise all tides working together. So increase your ROI on all those pieces and attribution. What kind of increase will you actually see? I'm not sure if I actually say that. No. What kind of increase will you actually see is typically in that 10 to 15, even up to 20% increase in your search activity that you'll see relative to increasing display activity. So when you're starting to build that up and you're doing it effectively, you're going to start to see those things move a little bit. People react differently to display ads, whoever they are. Whoever you're talking to, they're going to have a different response. We'll often talk about a display ad click as being the tip of the iceberg of activities that stem out from display ad activity. So someone will see the ad and search for that product later. Someone will see the ad and type the URL in directly later. Someone will see that ad and then respond to it kindly when they're in a third-party listings environment because they've actually had some of that brand built. They've actually maybe seen that vehicle before in an inventory-style ad. All sorts of different pieces of the puzzle are available there. But the key is attribution. So when you're running your campaigns and you're looking at your metrics and seeing what's going on, you may well see some significant lift in your search. But you've just started running a display campaign, and you're thinking, okay, well, is my display campaign working? It's doing this stuff. Maybe the metrics aren't the same, but you're seeing increase in other areas. It's about a holistic view, and also about looking back at the campaign, saying, okay, my provider of display here, here's the list of the vehicles that I sold. Can you show me where those vehicles actually showed up within our display campaign through an inventory-style ad unit? So things like that, being able to really get into the tighter metrics of measuring your display campaigns. All right, so where can you buy display ads? Who's buying today? And where are you buying? Mm-hmm. Yeah, what networks and that kind of stuff? Yeah, that's super common. Your main stuff, your Google Display ad, your GDN. Anyone buying outside of the GDN, the Google Display Network? Yeah. Through media partners? Yeah, so direct to the media companies, so direct to the publisher. Yeah, right on. What else? Anything else? Anyone trying RTB, or real-time bidding? Yeah, looking at it? Okay, so we'll talk a bit about each of those. So ad networks, that's your GDN, your Yahoo network, the whole bit. And really, they all have a variety of different ways in which they're able to segment their audience and target ads to those different places. So they can all say, you know, we're talking to an XYZ intender. So it's a truck intender, a Toyota intender, or whatever it is, building out those frames, and then we can start to serve there. And we can actually do pretty well with rich creative and with good, well-positioned ads to be able to get good results out of ad networks. Other pieces of real-time bidding exchange. So going into environments where you may get more cost-effective media. The tricky part is often with real-time bidding exchange on a very local level. I'd say RTB, in a lot of ways, is better suited to a Tier 2. Is anyone from Tier 2 in the room? Yeah. So better suited to Tier 2 when you're talking about a wider region. And Tier 1? OEM? Okay. So at that level as well, RTB does well. You really have to be working at it really carefully and tightly to have the positive effect that you want out of a hyper-local dealer ad. If you're a larger group, and you're talking about, so Jim Pattison is one of our customers, if you're talking about a larger group where they've got a widespread area within a major metropolis and even beyond, then you're going to start to be able to garner some good results there. But it takes a little more finagling. And what's interesting, too, is the level of transparency is reduced there, too. So knowing what you're actually getting, knowing what you're actually buying.
Can you give me an example of what a real-time bidding exchange is?
Yes, absolutely. Pardon me. So thanks for asking. So what a real-time bidding exchange actually is. So there are all sorts of available inventories, all sorts of available empty ad spaces running around in the marketplace. Similar to an ad network, there's companies putting their inventory into an ad network. Into a real-time bidding exchange, what changes there is everybody's bidding against each other to get the best space in real time. So
you're removing like Google or Yahoo being as the middle person?
in some cases, they'll even be included. In fact, Google has an RTB exchange. Kaylee, what's the Google's RTB called? Google Bid Manager? Yeah, okay, so Google Bid Manager. Kaylee's one of our campaign managers at the office. Acuity? Yeah, absolutely. So are you in the Canadian market? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, wait a minute. I've seen this guy before. Right on. So in this aspect, basically, Acuity, we actually work with with Maury. They buy in Acuity, and we run our ad tags in the Acuity environment. The transparency is the issue. Actually, I've seen you a few times around the hall here so far and been like, wait a minute, what's the store?
Canada.
Oh, there you go. Right on. It has been too long. We've tried to get back in touch with this guy. He's got to answer his phone more. Another question?
Yeah, I'm still not 100% clear. How How would one manage something like that? I mean, typically I'm used to going into like Google AdWords and managing my ads through my AdWords dashboard.
Yeah.
But is this like another product, another service, or
Another environment.
contacting some kind of website directly and saying, hey, I want ad space on your website?
No, so it would be another environment where you would log into a different space. So Site Scout is one, Acuity is one. There's a few other RTB exchanges, Kaylee? AdGear is another one.
Are they really different than Google's display network where they're just going out buying inventory?
They'll be more available and you'll probably be able to garner a better price. But you may in fact actually give away some targeting ability to be able to get those finite regions that you're looking for. Okay, so there's always trades in what you're doing. Okay, there's always kind of give and take. Yep.
What's the positive and negative about like placement and position compared to RTBs and direct to publisher?
So direct to publisher, and that's one of the big things. What you're giving away when you're buying in an environment like that you're gaining when you're buying direct from a publisher is the ability to say, I want to own the business page. I want to own the sports page or the home page. Those sorts of things, when that's your marketing decision strategically, it's a direct publisher conversation. You can't do takeovers in environments through an RTB exchange. There may be some that will say, okay, well, we can do that for you. Great. That's because they're working directly with the publisher to do that for you. So they're presenting themselves as a midway to handle that discussion.
Can you do rich media through RTB?
Yep. Yeah, you absolutely can. So you can serve what we serve for our ad units. They're a very rich piece that brings in inventory into that ad unit, and it's served on an ad tag. Same idea. Yeah. And then automotive-specific networks. So one that we've built recently is the Auto Audience Network. There are environments where you can get real specific to automotive, working with folks that have taken the time to create deep publisher relationships, okay, to be able to serve more interesting ad units, more dominant ad positions, to be able to deliver maybe a more sophisticated result, if you will. So one piece that we like to do is we serve an ad that goes right over top of the primary image of a auto review page. So if you're looking at an auto review for a Audi A5, which I do on a regular basis, you'll see that little ad unit come up right into the bottom quarter of the screen, where you're then seeing matching Audi A5s in that space there. I still got to work for a while before I can buy it, but nonetheless, maybe someone here can help me. So, developing the right ad. We talked a little bit about that, and we'll get into that a little bit here. So there's a lot of pieces in building the right ad, and we'll look at a few different ads as well that, frankly, are all from this kind of same makeup, and we'll look at some variations. But colors are a big deal. Images are a big deal. A little movement is a big deal. So a static ad that's really got a lot of text, and we'll see a couple of those in a sec. We have all these compliance rules that we have to go with. We have to put the disclaimer. We have to put all of the the mice type in the ad, and it just takes away from the experience of the ad. It's unfortunate, but to get co-op dollars, we need to do that. Okay, our prediction is that over the next while, and it's even starting to happen, where there are more approvals of digital advertising that don't require all of that mice type, and you're probably seeing that in your day-to-day when you're working with your OEMs to do that. The other aspect you can do is just say, okay, well, I'm going to get a better marketing campaign if I don't have this crazy ad unit that's got too much information, which you'll see to go further.
You guys seen a big change with mobile kind of starting to dominate?
Yeah. So mobile needs to be even more clear, right? When you talk about, and sometimes we talk about display as being that billboard that you're driving by in some respects. Okay, so that billboard that you're driving by better give you the message quick. All right, you've got a few seconds to be able to get someone's attention before they actually move on or before they decide to interact. So in those aspects, yeah, mobile is super important. And also finding mobile environments where you're not that automatic accidental thumb. So looking at click-through rates off mobile, you'll often see a much increased click-through rate, and some of it may well be from fat thumbs, right? That kind of issue. A/B testing is a beautiful thing to be able to do in a cost-effective manner. Imagine buying, I don't know, a $5,000 or $20,000 ad in the paper and testing it 1 week and testing some other the next week for another $25,000 or another $5,000, going through your A/B tests the old way that we used to do A/B testing, right? It's not cost effective in any way. Within the digital space, you can test your messaging. So, Michael, just like you're talking about relative to testing and figuring out, okay, what ad's working, what's working the best way. Running a whole bunch of different ads at the same time and testing and measuring what's getting you the most performance is your best way to make the decision. And one of my favorite slides in a lot of my decks that I'll give is the big black slide with white writing that says it depends, because it does, in every instance. And it's more and more in marketing, we're getting to love the quantitative folks, the math whiz. Okay, I pretend every now and then that I'm capable of that, but mostly I look to my friends to help me out in that regard. But testing and measuring, running campaigns that are going to be able to run and be assessed on a really regular basis, and then say, okay, well, we're running all these ad units, and these are the ones that are performing better. We're going to run them for the rest of the month or the rest of the year. Learning that way is more effective than me saying, you know what, doing this and putting this here and putting an orange button, because orange is this glorious online color that's more visible. It is, but nonetheless, isn't necessarily the way to make that change. It's better off testing through. Animation, having something that's going to spark the interest in your ad is certainly an important piece of the puzzle. So running a JPEG or a non-animated GIF and just saying, all right, here we're going to put that ad online and hope that it gets somebody's attention, versus having even just a little something happening within the ad unit that's really easy to produce, either from a templated format or by building out something in Flash or HTML5 to be able to give it some life to attract attention to it, or to show that customer what you're going to do. So when we run inventory ads, the inventory moves into place early in the ad, and then that shows the customer that they can actually click on it and look at more vehicles within that ad type. If we didn't show animation off the top, we just showed 2 pictures of 2 cars or 4 pictures of 4 cars, they wouldn't know intuitively that they can actually look at the 12 other cars that are in the ad unit, right? Live images. Who's taking live images of their new cars? Prize, 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 prize. Really, that is fantastic. Typically, that's not the number of people that put up their hand in a room like this. So live images of your cars is certainly a really important piece of the puzzle. That really speaks to who we're talking about, or rather talking to today. So that's really good to hear. And that's that. For those that aren't doing it, to help you convert to the majority of the room today, a consumer doesn't think the way we do in knowing that, well, I can get any new car. I can get any car on the lot, no issue. I can have it brought in. I can have it brought in from the OEM. I might wait a couple weeks, but I'm going to get every single car. They're thinking, do you really have it on the lot? And can I actually see it? When they can see that live picture, the consumer intuitively believes that it actually sits there on the lot. Okay? How many times does someone come to the lot to buy a car and they buy a different car? All the time? So what's it matter? What's it matter if you're showing the car that isn't necessarily the one that you think that customer would want? Right? As long as you're showing them something that's going to get them to the VDP that we send them to, so that they can start the process to decide that you are that one store that they're going to visit for their auto purchase. Right? It just makes good sense. Mobile optimization. So when you're creating ads in the ad environment today, you have to be considering all of the different environments where they're going to run. So an environment where you can really do all of that at once is certainly helpful. We're optimizing for that, running campaigns that are going to deliver that Flash ad, have an HTML5 backup, or even just considering buying directly in mobile environments to deliver on that piece of the puzzle. How much of your traffic is coming from mobile today? More than 60%.
Would you say that just designing everything for mobile
Well,
is that ahead of the curve?
no, because there are things that you will limit yourself. Yeah, but you'll still limit yourself, right? So if you're thinking about mobile, so we'll have ad units that will.
Starting with mobile. And
Yeah.
Then, okay, if we design something that fits mobile or works best in mobile,
Yep.
it can be then applied to the desktop website. Okay, fine, but it's if we're thinking of mobile first rather than thinking
Yeah.
of desktop.
I'm a proponent of thinking of mobile first, absolutely. but don't let yourself get into a space where you're thinking of mobile and then not making the changes that are going to improve the conversion on a desktop experience. So, there's more that you can garner from. One of our best performing ad sizes typically in a campaign is 300 by 600. Really big ad format. You can put a whole bunch of cars in there. You can put a bit more animation. There's a lot of activity and a lot of dominance on the screen. So if you're building a mobile format, and typically the biggest one you'll have in mobile is the 3x2, then you're going to have trouble going from that piece. But yeah, considering mobile first is a great mindset to get into, because sizing up is a lot easier than sizing down, especially with mice type and lots of offering and lots of incentives, all that kind of stuff gets very tricky. Yeah, right on. So HTML backups, I've kind of beaten that to death already, but basically that's a great way to ensure that your campaigns are going to deliver in one or the other. Google, if you're just running in Google, Google's the biggest pain in my ass these days. Okay? And Google, if you're listening, I'm sorry, don't strike me down with lightning. But no, seriously, what they've now said is, okay, you can run your Flash file, but your backup has to be a JPEG. Fully capable, not too long ago, we were running HTML5 backup. Now we're saying, okay, we don't want to run on Google at all. That doesn't make sense. Why would we go down that path and suffer at the hand of Google saying that, we don't want to support, that wacky Apple-related stuff. Okay, so political battle, whatever it is, but they're a pain in my ass. Big time. Okay, so ads have the ability to be flighted online and learn just before they serve what environment they're serving in. So am I serving on a desktop? Am I serving on a tablet? Am I serving on a mobile phone? That decision, that communication that happens back and forth with the ad server and the publisher, where the ad is being served, is determining which piece to grab from the ad server to put in front of that consumer. So if they're on a mobile device, on an iDevice, for example, it's saying, I don't like Flash, what else can you give me? So I can either give you a static or an HTML5, which is just a different kind of programming language that allows for animation on an iDevice. Yeah, does that work? Great. So, I went too far. Here we go. Okay. So we've got a whole bunch of different style ads. I'll just jump up on my machine here for a second. We'll see if we can actually click through. This is always the devastating piece within a presentation when you say, okay, I'm going to try the World Wide Web and see if it actually delivers what I want it to. But this is, these two over here are really getting into that space of lots of information, not necessarily attracting. This one had a bit of animation. We'll see actually if I can show you that. And this will, so let's go this way. I'll open it up and then throw the screen up here. Okay, so there's the animation of that ad. You want to write this down. This is kind of a cool environment. Moat.com. Search for your ads, search for your competitors' ads, search for your OEM ads, search for all sorts of stuff. They may or may not be there, realistically. But what Moat does is it goes out in the marketplace and it grabs all sorts of ads and stores them in this environment to make them searchable. So you can see some good things. You can get some ideas. If you're a designer or if you're actually doing the design work and you're having trouble and you want to rack your brain, Moat, MOAT.com is a great place to go. Okay. So actually, what we'll do, let's see if I can just stay in here a sec. Let's resize this bad boy. And let's search for, what did I have? Audi. Yes, still a sucker for Audi. Okay, so seeing ad units that have a little less said. Okay, a little easier to see. White space is certainly a desirable piece within an ad unit to be able to see what the message actually is. And click here for inventory. So you see within these ads that I'm talking about over here, click to see over 150 used cars in stock. Click to view inventory, get a quote, view inventory. Okay? We'll get into dynamic display and that sort of stuff, but let's just look for a sec at some of these guys. This is an intro graphic. I'll show you in a sec. So an introductory graphic that can be animated. And then the inventory comes in with some animation to show the consumer that they can look at specific vehicles within that area. These are all stock ads, so you'll see some photos come in like that. More info, and clicking over to the vehicle detail page. So that's another piece of it. We'll get into metrics in a second, where you can actually send your ad units, okay, to send someone to a search results page or a home page versus actually sending someone to the vehicle detail page. Okay, so it's some interesting pieces of the puzzle there. But let's keep rolling. Any questions on any of these or thoughts on any of these? Some ads, you know? Are ads really all that exciting? Great question. Okay. So what call to actions convert better? Clear ones. Simple ones. So it's actually telling someone to click. Actually telling someone to, a button that there's more information after this. Actually spelling it out. So oftentimes we'll see ad units in the marketplace where you're not telling the customer to do anything. Now that could well be someone who's being tricky and they bought a CPC campaign and they're just running branding ads, so a cost per click campaign, and they actually don't want anyone to click on them. They're just being kind of cheeky in the way that they're buying ad content. Not bad, eh? So you set it up, you're running all sorts of branding stuff, you buy it on a cost per click, you don't worry a damn thing whether they get clicked on, right? And then you maybe create some other ads that you buy on cost per click or you buy on CPM that go right to the vehicle detail page. There's different ways to game what you're doing out there. Okay, other questions about some of the ads? Okay, so what we find is that putting inventory in that ad unit, time and again, at the point in the funnel where we're most interested in getting people to that one store, our store, is we're then saying, okay, let's put inventory in that ad unit to ensure that that customer sees what we've got that's relative to their interests. So you match it up, you go through all the behavioral characteristics, you figure out what that customer wants to buy. Maybe a new 3 Series BMW or something like that, and you put that in front of them. You put that inventory in front of them with the click right to the vehicle detail page to ensure that that customer is getting to the right spot and choosing you.
Just a moment ago, we were talking about having like billboard-style display ads where they don't have call to action and they're based on a cost per click.
Yeah.
Won't the quality score of that ad suffer tremendously?
The quality score within Google, okay, as far as basically maybe needing to pay more.
It's just like my logo or whatever it is, right? And people see it and never click on it. Why would Google continue to serve the ad in a competitive environment?
Great question. And honestly, I don't have the clear answer. So when you're buying in the environment, you'd need to keep tabs on how that's affecting things. So if you're being kind of cheeky in that regard and using that as a tool, there'll be repercussions like there would be with any kind of ad content.
Would that be something that you could kind of sidestep by using one of these exchanges?
Or going direct to a publisher.
Because they could care less about the quality or
Yeah.
whatever it be.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So we alluded to it a little bit here. There are significant differences between what's going on in the marketplace today relative to dynamic. Who's heard of dynamic inventory ads? Okay, it's kind of en vogue. We're uber nerds at SpeedShift Media. We've been doing dynamic display ads for many, many, many years, since before they were cool. So now we're kind of excited because suddenly we're cool. The time's finally caught up with us. We've been on the bleeding edge for a while, and it's kind of painful. But no, it's catching up very well. So there's some differences out there. Static banner ads, the stuff that we were looking at on the screen before, effectively, on your left-hand side of the screen. A static ad, basically, that is predetermined. So it's a GIF or a JPEG file that's running, and it's just showing the messaging that you want to show without any changes. Static ad. Flash ad, rich media, so basically creating something that's got some animation, but it's a predetermined ad unit. You know exactly what it's going to do when it hits the screen, and you're serving that ad to everyone. Okay, so you can create some really cool stuff that's going to get some great attention. You can do lots of funky things and actually derive pretty good returns, pretty good click-through rates on those, getting people to the page that you predetermined. So like saying, I'm going to send people to a landing page and maybe squeeze them into a decision. So a good landing page, we'll get into that in a sec, a good landing page is going to squeeze someone into the one decision that you want them to make, as opposed to some of the things that we see with VDPs in the market today. Dynamically served static ads. Okay, so there's a really big difference between a dynamically served dynamic ad, like a truly dynamic display ad, and dynamically serving a static ad. So there's a lot of ways to serve ads dynamically. Things like saying, okay, between 9 or maybe between 6 and 10 a.m., I own a restaurant and I'm going to dynamically serve these ads that are for breakfast. And then I cross over the threshold, and the next ad that's going to come out is going to be my lunch ad, and then I'm going to switch it over, and it's going to be my dinner ad. Same sort of thing with working with a last vehicle seen kind of scenario. So retargeting with a last vehicle seen offering. So the last vehicle seen, basically, maybe someone was looking at, and it's kind of like one of my favorite examples, really, honey, we need a new minivan. Yes, dear, I'm going to go look online, and I'm going to go through the details, and I'm going to figure out the minivan. I'm going to check it all out, and oh my God, there's a Dodge Challenger. Okay, I better stop, and I'll go off, and I'll do the rest of my work. And then we retarget that person with the Dodge Challenger all day long, and we send them back to that Dodge Challenger. What the hell for? Right? They've been looking, all the rest of their search activity, all the rest of the time that they've spent has been focused on minivans. So why wouldn't we actually look at more of their search session and build up a nice ad dynamically with truly dynamic creative where you're injecting all of the pieces of knowledge that you've got from their past consumer history, from being on your website, to say, all right, here's all the minivans that you were looking at, here's all the ones that compare to those that exist on our lot, and here's the Challenger, just for a little candy for you. And then serve them that ad unit. So that's dynamically serving truly dynamic ads. Go ahead. Yeah? Exactly. Exactly. So I agree with you 100%. Yeah, exactly right. So that the pieces that they're seeing, and that's really the beauty of it, when you're serving truly dynamic creative, when you're serving ad units that can decide, okay, they've seen this one, so they're likely interested in these ones as well, and they didn't actually look at them when they were on our page. They never found them. Here they are. Okay, so it's finding those vehicles and moving them in. Also getting into incentives, so being able to put in incentive pieces, being able to put lead-in graphics that have an incentive that are going to play to that consumer's interest. A stronger call to action. Exactly. Yeah, you're right on. So there we go. We've beaten that one through. So why bother? Okay, why would you actually bother getting into the trouble of running these inventory-style ads with all of the stuff that goes with it? And of course, there's folks that can make it very easy for you. But why you would bother is let's look at an example. Okay, so we'll look at this vehicle or this company, Sherwood Honda. So they're running some ad units here. They're running an intro graphic. That's the one that we saw on the screen that starts with the intro graphic and then renders to an inventory ad. So they're significantly increasing VDP views and consistent growth month over month with conversions. And I'll show you that quite specifically. So here's the impressions that they ran: May, June, July, August, and September. Okay, variety of different impressions. Okay, really because there's more available, less available, so you end up going in the marketplace where you're actually looking to find the right people, looking to find the right consumers, so there's going to be fluctuations in your impressions. The clicks is going to vary based on the performance of the ad and click-through rate when you're running an impression-based campaign. Or you can do it the other way and say, let's just do a cost-per-click campaign and say, I want 1,000 new clicks to my VDP a month, or I want 500 new clicks to my VDPs a month. Straightforward. But the click-through rate, what you see, except for August, because everybody's out partying on the beach, you see steady increase in click-through rate. Okay, there's our beach time. Okay, next thing, retargeted. Steady increase in retargeted click-through rate. And that sort of thing happens because an ad platform that's intelligent is starting to figure out what's going on in the marketplace. The retargeting pool of people that you can go out to is starting to grow. Okay, you're starting to build on that effort to get a clearer understanding of what's going on in the marketplace. The conversions also increase to the point where it's about a $15 to $20 cost per conversion, okay, or significant action on that VDP. Okay, super important pieces of the puzzle that when you're saying, okay, well, how do I know it's working? If you're deciding after month 1, meh. After month 2, it's a little better. After month 3, oh, okay, now that's starting to make sense. The conversion relative to what I'm running is really starting to make some economic sense, some ROI sense. Okay, and it continues to improve after that. And that's one of the biggest things for us. We refuse to run campaigns that are shorter than 3 months because you can't find out. You can't learn whether you're actually getting the value of your campaign until after that period. So that's a really important piece of it. It's like going to a restaurant and having a bad experience and never going to restaurants again. You know, that's what happens in the display space sometimes. So after the prospect clicks on the ad, okay? VDP. Who's got a VDP that they love? Yeah, crickets. Okay, so it's tricky. It's funny. In digital, we know what works in a landing page. We know. Okay, clear messaging, so the details that are required to perform the next action. And very clearly, the squeeze page idea is having very few next actions, clearly defined next actions. Okay, clear call to action, 3 maximum. Okay, and that's really being nice. A typical squeeze page only has 1. You can't even click back. You can't even click on a logo to get the rest of the site. You just want someone to land and go to where you want them to go. Do what you want them to do. It's super straightforward. So, 3 tops. Let's look at this. How many? What the fuck? Really? Okay, that is ridiculous. Moreover, that's a 2007 Honda Odyssey, and it's a stock photo. Okay? That's easy. Nice, clean. What do I need to do as a consumer? Oh, I can go see you, I can submit a lead, or I can call you. That's all you need to do. So when customers come to us and they say, well, can we do a CPL thing or maybe a CPA, we'll do that. No way. Your VDPs are messed up. Work on that piece of the puzzle and you'll see better conversion for sure. Okay, that's an important piece of it. All right, go ahead.
You guys ever experimented with using a different VDP layout? So the VDP from an ad looks different than the general one. Have you ever done that?
Totally doable, yeah. Yeah, we don't, we've done that with customers who produce those themselves. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, frankly, you're still better off just improving your VDP, But you'll be able to see a difference, even running a campaign that's going to drive to a specific page that's designed for that category. So if you're focused on, if you're focused on 10 particular models, or maybe you're just looking at 3 or 2, and going to environments like that and building it around the Honda Accord or the Odyssey.
I guess where my thought is that somebody clicks a display ad, depending on the messaging, right? They may be higher in the funnel.
Yeah.
Somebody who's a search customer, maybe, I agree with you. They want one button. What do I do next? Somebody who might be a little higher up,
Yeah.
be ready to, take one action.
Agreed.
That you decide what they want to do.
Yep.
Sometimes having those 2 or 3 helps them kind of narrow down what I want to do next.
Yeah. And that's the other piece of that is where you talk into what you're measuring in the way of conversions, that sort of thing. So one of the pieces that we measure very carefully is view-through conversion. So it's that customer that comes to the page originally, doesn't convert at that time, and then does convert on the following kind of return visit. So that's a big piece of the puzzle also. Yeah. Okay, cool. No, good question. So your KPIs. Who's super hot on impressions? Typical. Me neither. Okay, click-through rate. Pretty important. How is it performing? Really, when you get into cost per click-through rate could be whatever. Are you worried about a click-through rate on a Facebook ad? No. You just pay cost per click. right? Pretty straightforward, but an important metric. Engagement with that ad unit, I'd say, is a pretty big one. When you're doing your A/B testing and figuring out what are people actually doing with it, if there is something to engage with on that ad unit, so to scroll and look at more vehicles or to actually maybe do some configuration, that sort of thing within that ad unit. Okay, can you actually get people to roll over to experience some of that ad? Retargeted impressions. So what are you actually doing to build up that return visitor? As we know, that first-time visitor, particularly from display or search or anything really, that first-time visitor isn't converting right there online. They're learning, they're getting more information, they're jumping back out. We see within our data management platform, we call it Magnum. Magnum's a good guy. So we go through the whole process and we look at all those different pieces, and we actually see people go back and forth to third-party listings environments, research environments. We've got a big network of publishers for review sites. So we see folks go back to review sites, look at things, come to the VDP, go back off, look at a few more, come back to the VDP. It really is a dance through that path to purchase that's a really fun thing to observe and see what's actually going on to figure out what to message when and how to best communicate with that customer.
How quickly can you retarget? How quickly should you?
Okay, great question. So as soon as a customer comes to your site and their browser is cookied, they can be retargeted the next time you find them online. And that's an important delineation. That doesn't mean every time they're out there you're able to retarget them. It means you're going to be serving a whole boatload of ads and hopefully come across that person again. So when you're thinking of average traffic to a dealer website, maybe around 2,500 unique visitors in a month, would that be accurate? How many EUVs are you guys getting? More than that? 10 to 15, okay. Yeah. So when you're starting with that, beg your pardon? Yeah? About 10,000, great. So when you're starting with a 10,000, and then you're saying, okay, now we're going to go out in the world, and we're going to find those 10,000 people again, you're going to find a tenth of them, most likely, and be able to serve them an ad unit. But you can't consider that in the first month of your retargeting campaign that you're going to retarget many people at all. Simply, you won't. You're going to start to build up that pool, we call it, of retargetable users. Okay, of folks that have been there, and then over time we're able to get more and more of them. So you can retarget them right away. We'll typically set campaigns. Kaylee, who was here before, one of our campaign managers, will set a campaign to have a 30-day window typically of how long you're going to retarget them for, and also a max number of instances that you're going to serve that same ad. If you serve someone an ad 25 times and they don't act on it, you're probably wasting your time and your money, depending on the style of campaign you're running. So we'll set it up into that 7 to 11 time limit. 7 to 11, it's a nice store as well where you can get whatever you want, but it's a good metric to consider with digital of how many times you're actually going to target that user. Okay? Once you get to that point, you back off. They come back to your site, mind you, from some other activity or from their own movement after they've seen that ad, then that'll start again, okay, because they're showing new interest. Right? And what we're doing all the time with our profiling and when we're figuring out people, when Magnum's deciding who's who, we're building that story all the time. So we're taking the time to make sure that we understand that consumer and the changes they make. Initially, when they're in the in-image environment of our auto audience network, they're figuring out what car they want. They're looking at a bunch of different reviews, maybe 4 or 5 different cars. And then we'll see when they're spending time in something like Kijiji up in Canada or AutoTrader, that kind of environment, when they're spending time and looking at different vehicles in a third-party listing space, they're then going to show us that they're actually only searching for 2 vehicles. So we can narrow the search. They come to our site, they look at one, they get distracted by another, we can add that to the mix. So it's an ongoing story of what that consumer is most interested in that we're then injecting into the display ads in real time for that user. Okay, all based on, it's an important piece of the puzzle, but all based on machine-to-machine communication. So it's not like I'm keeping an eye on Michael addressed as Michael, right? I'm keeping an eye on the numerical data that I have that tells me it's his machine. And we're starting to do things, I'm off-tracking a little bit, but it's kind of cool data stuff, starting to figure out how to track people from device to device, okay, where there's other attributes that are being shared between devices, and you start to be able to figure out, okay, the person on the desktop is the same as the person on the mobile. Okay, that's like crazy stuff now.
Oh, well, we can't really know what the numbers are because they searched 3 things on mobile, and then they searched 12 things on the desktop.
Yeah, Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So splicing those pieces together takes time and a lot of work, and very exciting when it works. Yeah. All right, so a couple more minutes here, and we'll jump to questions. Retargeted clicks, and then conversions are significant actions. So keeping track of what those things that are happening on the website that are significant to that path to purchase or significant to you. And frankly, everyone will decide on what their metric is that they believe is the most significant, or the combination of them. I was hearing Cobalt was talking about a good blend of someone who looks at a vehicle detail page and looks at the maps and directions page and looks at, or number of page views and that sort of thing. So there's a few pieces of the puzzle that start to translate into great correlations of increased activity. For us, we really spend a lot of time thinking about this as the metric. The more people you can get to those vehicle detail pages, the better off you're going to be. Okay, and that's, bar none, pretty straightforward, easy to understand, and that's the piece of that puzzle. Frankly, if they're checking out the VDP and they're seeing what they want, are they going to look at the maps page? Well, yeah, right? The harder piece is actually getting them to the right car. Okay. How long do you have to wait for results? Pretty straightforward. Maintaining your content. I love hearing that so many of you guys are taking pictures of your new cars. That's exciting. Knowing your business, so pricing effectively, all that sort of good stuff. You can find out really quick if things aren't working well that maybe you need to adjust in that regard. And there's lots of great tools in the marketplace to help you price correctly. Testing your message, so that's all that A/B stuff. But the bottom line is it takes time, like I was showing with the example before. It takes time to go from that initial piece where you're saying, okay, we're going to run it, we're going to test and see how it works. You're going to get good results to start. You're going to get better and better results as time goes. How do we know whether advertising partner is doing a great job? We can talk about this till we're blue in the face, but basically there's a bunch of little criteria here that you can think of that are going to help you to determine what it is that you're doing there and working with folks. Our big thing is working collaboratively. When we work with partners, if we're sharing information both ways, the days of, well, I don't know how well it's really working for me, I can't really tell you, and you're actually doing great work and you're actually getting great results, but they could be even better. If you were sharing that information with your partner, they would probably be able to help you do even better still. So this whole digital space, different from running the radio remote or running the newspaper ad and talking about those results. You can do that again without having to change too much. You need to make adjustments in your programs within digital to get better and better and better results all the time. So the most collaboration possible with the folks that you're working with is probably one of the key aspects of it as well. I'm going to pause there. There's our little summary, but I want to make sure that if there's any other questions, I'm glad that you were asking them during our conversation, but are there other questions that you might want to touch on?
More expensive, much more expensive, grossly more expensive than static ads?
Not really. I mean, it depends on who you're working with and how they'll change pricing structure and that sort of thing. Effectively, it differs from one to the next. Yeah. For folks that are heading out, if you want to break out, feel free to keep chatting with me here. I've gone kind of 5 minutes over my allotted time. But at the same time, take care. If you want to get more information, send me an email, and we can get into details offline. And Michael, I'm coming for you.